Hello, people. My name is Nancy. I'm 16 years old. You will not believe it, but I have a wishing well in my yard. And it actually works. But I realized that I had to be careful with my desires, because this well could have made my boyfriend die. I'm already grown up, and I haven't made any wishes in a long time. It was really just child's play, after all. But one day I returned to the wishing well out of hopelessness. There was this guy, Andrew, and I was head over heels in love with him. Oh boy, he was just beautiful. There was one moment about a year ago when I was at a school camp and everyone was playing volleyball on the beach. At one point, Andrew took off his t-shirt. Oh my! He looked like a Greek god or something! Unfortunately, I didn't stand a chance with him. He lived a couple of houses away from us, and I can't really say we were friends. I mean, he didn't really see me as a girl at all. I was deep in the friend zone, only there was no friendship. And then one day, I remembered that the well had fulfilled all my wishes as a child. So I asked for something again. I knew it was stupid, and I did it out of desperation. But it worked! I'm serious. Just a few minutes later, my friend called me. She was very energetic and excited. There was a party that was planned at her house, and she wanted to invite almost all the high school guys there. Andrew had to be there, too, so it was time to act. In a few hours, I'd changed so much that you wouldn't recognize me. I was wearing my best clothes and had super professional makeup done. I was ready for Andrew to finally see me dressed to kill. So I was at this party, and it was just incredibly crowded. I was even a little uncomfortable. I was walking around the house looking for my friends, but suddenly I heard someone call me. And when I looked back, I saw him. Andrew! He looked at me in surprise. Then he smiled and said that I looked gorgeous. Oh my God, my heart started pounding out of my chest, and I didn't even know what to say. I remember making a stupid joke and then blushing like a tomato. But Andrew relieved the tension and suggested that we talk in a quieter place. I was almost crazy with happiness. Andrew and I talked, laughed, and danced. Everything was just perfect. Then he said that he was going to have a little party to celebrate the summer holidays, and invited me to it. Can you imagine? I just made a wish at the well, and within a couple of hours, Andrew and I were getting close for the first time in our lives. Of course, I said I'd be happy to come to his party. Suddenly, the music in the house stopped, and we heard some screams. It turned out that my friend's parents had suddenly returned home and found out that their house had turned into a club. They started yelling, and we ran out of the house as fast as possible. Unfortunately, I lost Andrew in the crowd, and we didn't even have time to say goodbye. A couple of days later, I got a text from Andrew. There were details about the party, but there was one problem with that. When I told my parents I wanted to go to a beach party, they didn't want me to go. I argued with them, but they said that I was too young to go to these events. Do I even have to say that I was very upset? This was my only chance to be with Andrew, but my parents cut me off. I was crying in the backyard, and I thought everything was lost. But then I decided to go back to the wishing well. I told it that this party was my dream, and it was very important for me to get there. So I tossed a coin and went back inside. What can I say? It was just a miracle! After a couple of minutes, my parents came up to me and said that I could go to the party if I promised them that I wouldn't do anything stupid. Unbelievable! A week later, I packed my things and my friends and I arrived at the place. Oh, it was a beautiful beach, and it was hidden from outsiders. When everyone was gathered, we built a fire and set up our tents. There was loud music, dancing, and of course, Andrew, who I tried to flirt with. And he flirted with me back! Then someone suggested that we go swimming, but I promised my parents I wouldn't do anything dangerous. So I stayed on the beach. But I wasn't alone. Andrew stayed with me. Oh, it was the perfect moment. I gathered all my courage and kissed him. I was the happiest girl in the world, and he reciprocated. We sat near the fire for a long time after everyone went to bed. I enjoyed every second with Andrew. And then, I didn't sleep in my tent. No details, okay? In the morning, the party ended, and I returned home in a great mood. However, my happiness ended very soon. Andrew started ignoring me. I texted and called him 1,000 times, but got no response. I was very angry when I saw that he was online and hadn't read any of my messages. I was ready to smash my phone in a rage. I even went to his house, but his parents said he wasn't home. That was a lie! I was so angry that when I came home, I went to the well and said a lot of bad things. In short, I wanted Andrew to get what he deserved for taking advantage of me. But in the next second, my father ran out of the house and started yelling at me. He said that I was crazy and that I shouldn't have done what I did with Andrew. This was exactly what my parents were afraid of, and they had tried to protect me from it. We started fighting and shouting at each other, and I couldn't understand how they found out about what had happened at the beach party. But it turned out that it was all about this well. My dad made it when I was 5 years old. And there was a microphone in this well! My dad turned it on every time I went to the well to make a wish. A microphone in the well! Insane! That's how my parents heard my every desire throughout my childhood. And I always got exactly what I wanted. They were surprised to see me at the well again a couple of weeks ago. And when I made the wish that they would let me go to the party, they relented and agreed. Our argument ended up with me being grounded for the rest of the summer. Oh man, I was angry for a long time. Everyone was against me. Andrew took advantage of me, my parents locked me in the house, it was just a nightmare. But as time passed, I began to calm down. I spent the whole month almost in isolation, and I started to miss the coolest moment of my summer. It was that night with Andrew. Yes, he was a jerk and he still ignored me, but warm memories were all I had. So when school started, I went straight to Andrew's class to finally talk to him. I wanted to find out what was going on between us, but when I saw him, I changed the subject. His leg was in a cast and he was walking on crutches. There were rumors at school that he had been attacked by robbers during the night, and Andrew said that he didn't even remember what had happened. He woke up in the hospital, and he had been in a cast for almost a month. At that moment, my skin crawled, because I remembered that almost a month ago, I had made a wish at the well that something bad would happen to Andrew. But as you know, it wasn't magic, it was my father. I remember how he'd yelled at me, and how angry he'd been. So I realized that it was my father who attacked Andrew. In shock, I ran home to find out if this was true. But when I told my father about this, he started to get nervous and tried to come up with some excuses. But I knew it was him. He had a motive, and he knew where Andrew lived. So when my dad found out what Andrew did to me, he got really angry and went to his house. And then he saw my boyfriend coming home from a night jog. You can guess what happened next. Andrew ended up with his leg in a cast, and he didn't remember that my father had done it. But now the puzzle pieces were coming together, and I was going to call the police to tell them the truth. But when I started dialing 911, my father ordered me to stop. I wasn't going to do it, but then he wanted to take my phone away from me. I started running and screaming. I called for help, and I was able to lock myself in my room. I was very scared, but a couple of minutes later, I saw red and blue flashing lights from my window. It was the police, and I was safe. I went downstairs and started yelling that my father had attacked me and beaten up my boyfriend. Dad was taken to the police station, and my mom and I followed him. I told the officer the whole story about my father threatening Andrew. These were serious charges, and my dad could go to jail if they were confirmed. An hour later, Andrew arrived at the station and had to identify the man who had attacked him. But when he looked at my father through the glass, he said he didn't do it. I was furious with anger, Andrew knew exactly what my father did. He saw him, and now he was lying. In the end, the police let my father go. I ran after Andrew and started yelling at him. I didn't understand why he had let the police let the criminal go. And then he gave me a clear answer. He remembered everything, down to the smallest detail. My father caught him by surprise that night. He just wanted to talk, but then he got angry. Andrew ended up with a cast on his leg, but my father regretted it and tried to negotiate with Andrew. Now he was paying him a substantial sum of money every month for his silence, and Andrew got a nice bonus for never talking to me again. Andrew took the money and just rejected me from his life. Now I am alone, and I know that my father committed a crime. But both he and Andrew went unpunished. And now I dream about a real wishing well, because then I would have made a wish for justice for both